All right, check the mic. We're live. It's after hours. 34-10 win for the Houston Texans. Who knows what we're going to talk about here tonight? Might be mustaches, might be a little bit of football. Ugly Monday night football game, though. Texans much better than the Cowboys. Even when the Texans were screwing up and picking up 4th and 20 penalties on field goals and head slaps and everything, Cowboys never really had much of a chance.
Yeah, pretty much. Cowboys were terrible again for most of the game. They made it like they had a little period. You know, Troy was saying this in the broadcast that they held it close and they made it, really they had like a little spell where they avoided getting absolutely beat down, and the rest of the game was back to being fairly well beat down. Our intern Anthony posted this in the chat. It was the broadcast said it as well. That's now the 6th straight game where Dallas has had a 20 or more point deficit, which is an NFL record. Like not a Cowboys record, an NFL record for all-time futility in their own building with bits of the roof falling off. Like just an absolute nightmare for Jerry and the rest of his billionaire buddies.
I have to say, I mean, obviously the Cowboys have been a big story because they've been so disappointing this season. And they're coming off this, it did it again. It was doing so well.
Whoa.
It was doing fine. It was doing fine. It was doing absolutely fine. It was the wires. I made sure that they were secure. And here we are again.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a great fix.
God. Stupid thing. I'm here. I'm still here. I wasn't expecting the Cowboys to be as bad as my camera this year. I wasn't expecting that. Like they had this the joke about the all-in offseason, but all they were supposed to do was maybe just not progress. Maybe just not take the next step to Super Bowl contender. But everything's worse. And I know it's Cooper Rush and there's no Dak and everything, but it was awful when Dak was out there. I wasn't expecting it to be this bad for Dallas.
No, I mean, you're right. We were saying their offseason was pretty rough. They're going to do really well just to stay where they were, right? Like they have been planning this offseason of let's take a step forward, let's finally get it done, the all-in joke that Jerry Jones was talking about. And we were saying, okay, that's silly. Realistically, looking at their offseason, they're going to do well to stay where they are. They'll probably regress a little bit. But like 3 straight seasons of 12 wins, I don't know about you, but I'm thinking like somewhere around 500, not, disaster, which is where they are right now. I mean, they're becoming a laughing stock. I mean, we're joking about the stadium and the sunlight and bits falling off it. And, Dak Prescott's now popped his hamstring and he's done for the year. And, rookie Tyler Guyton is hurt and getting rotated out as well because he's not been good. I mean, it's awful. It's catastrophic.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like everything that was supposed to be a potential weakness, the new starters on the offensive line, fine. You take a slight step back there. Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, those injuries. Micah's back now, but before he got hurt, they were getting run all over. After he's back, they're still getting run all over. I was not expecting the run defense to be as bad as it was for Dallas. So just from that perspective, look, there's some people who are, my friends who I do Mississippi radio with, big Dak Prescott fans. They like to complain about Jerry and the front office and the fact that Jerry's the GM and they're not doing enough for Dak Prescott. And I'm always like, well, listen, they've been one of the best drafting teams in the league over the last 7 or 8 years. They have put pieces around Dak through the years. And even if they haven't maybe maximized their roster, fine. Overall, they've done a good job. And that had been true up until this point, but it really is collapsing in extraordinary fashion right now, as maybe you would say.
I mean, it's the classic cautionary tale, right? The problem with a team who drafts pretty well for any extended period of time is you start to believe your own hype, right? You think you can do that all the time, and you start to lean on it, and that's where the problems arise, right? It's building through the draft is great. Needing to hit on specific draft picks at specific times is not. Certainly if you're not going to build in contingency and, double or triple dip at certain positions. So this was part of why Dallas's offseason was so potentially troubling, because they went into a draft needing to nail multiple draft picks for them to just be okay. And maybe a couple of them are okay, but like the biggest one, the starting left tackle has been a problem, and like they're in trouble because this draft class has not been like a home run and bailed them out.
Can we put Alfonso's his comment up there again? I mean, this does sum it up well, right? The Cowboys haven't done much in free agency, other than bringing Zeke back. Yes, missed on the last couple of draft classes. We'll see what happens with this one. It's still early. I think Guyton still has potential, but you're immediately putting a lot of pressure on him. Mozzie Smith hasn't been great. You lose Dan Quinn, who's turned that defense into just turnover machines over the last couple of years. So yeah, I think a lot of that did add up. And yeah, you go all in. You go all in this offseason in Dallas. On the other side, again, Houston felt like they could have won by 50 to me. Ran the ball pretty well. It felt like another uneven game for CJ Stroud. Little stuff like it's 3rd and inches and they're throwing a deep out and he missed it by a mile. Very similar to the Carlton Davis miss. The Carlton Davis interception last week coming out of the half. Still some inconsistency from CJ Stroud, but overall the offense did move the ball pretty well.
Yeah, it still wasn't amazing. They kind of went away from Mixon a little bit. I mean, he ended up with 20 carries or whatever it was, but like the start of the game, Mixon was just absolutely destroying Dallas. Like Texans fans are, maybe this is why. Texans fans are like livid at Bobby because he's running the ball too much, right? It's almost like he listened to them and went, okay, we'll go away from that and we'll get it done through the air this time. Whereas realistically, they could have run the ball like 40 times in this game and just absolutely stomped the Cowboys defense because they weren't slowing down Joe Mixon. But they kind of went away from it a little bit, relied on Stroud. Micah Parsons is still destructive. He's still a problem. The offensive line for Houston creaked a little bit. But yeah, definitely improved relative to the last few weeks. And certainly Troy Aikman was making a lot of that last touchdown drive and how much they wanted to score in the fourth quarter just to shut that narrative up. They certainly seemed intent on putting another touchdown on the board when one didn't need to be put on.
Yeah, I mean, I think Houston coming into the year, I thought they looked like a Super Bowl contender, a team that can contend with Kansas City. And their defense, they show that they can pour it on from a pass rush perspective in this, when they have the lead. Danielle Hunter, with some incredible plays. Derek Barnett with the strip sack and return for a touchdown. But yeah, have we even seen the complete Texans? Have we seen a complete game from the Texans, right? Early in the year, some Mixon heavy rushing attacks. I think Mixon has been fantastic this year. There's been games where the defense has been great. There's been a few games where the passing attack has been good. You haven't seen that complete game. It either makes me think they still have it in them, combination of last year's Texans, pieces of what we've seen this year, the improvement from the defense, or part of me thinks, are they never going to put it together? But they've got big games down the stretch in the AFC, and that's when you want to peak. So I still have that hope, I guess, for Houston for my preseason take that they're right up there, the team competing with the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, and now the Steelers, of course, in the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, Will Anderson is not out there at the moment. Mixon has missed time this season. Obviously, Diggs is done for the year, but Nico Collins only just coming back. Like, they are getting stronger. Theoretically, there are reinforcements for several positions on the horizon to make them better overall. Some of their stars absolutely still fired in this game. So I think it's probably a reasonable point that we haven't necessarily seen the peak of what this team can be this year. Like, I think there is more untapped potential in there if they can get those guys healthy and put it together.
They put Bobby's resume up there, Sam. Did you see the screenshot?
Yes. With curious omission of several years.
What did he just take 2014 to 16 off? Did he just, sit at home and do nothing? Maybe one of those years, but at least 2 of those years, he was our coworker and friend of the show. He was a co-host on our show, Sam, and they missed it.
And yeah, kudos to Troy Aikman to setting the record straight.
Yeah, he did.
The graphic just acted like it didn't exist. Troy Aikman then went, for a couple of those years he worked for Chris Collinsworth at PFF. So, fair play to him to correct
Troy
that.
said it.
It is weird to me. Like, I understand that we are biased having been there and worked with Bobby. to me, that's an interesting addition to his resume that they put up there, as opposed to, well, he didn't work in the NFL there, so we must omit that from the record, right? Like just a hole in his resume. Imagine handing in like an old school resume that just had like several years missing in the middle, and you're like, don't ask any questions about that. Don't worry about it. It's not relevant to what you're asking about, you know? Just
I mean, it's because
skate over it.
It's because it's TV. They're trying to fit the graphic in. Like, I get it. It was just
There's space to put that in. That's not why they did it. They did it because they don't think PFF as like a waypost in his career is worth mentioning. They're keeping his NFL resume as opposed to actually also in the middle. The guy took a couple of years off and was working as an analyst for an analytics company,
which springboarded him back into Kyle Shanahan's good graces once Kyle got his own, head coaching job. I want to throw something at you here, Sam. In tonight's game, Troy Aikman's doing the ESPN broadcast, of course. Bill Belichick was on the Manning cast for the first half. Troy Aikman has been vocal about offering his services as a future general manager for the Cowboys. I think he's kind of serious about it. Like, would he leave the Monday Night Football booth to go be Jerry Jones GM? Would Jerry Jones actually give him the reins, so to speak, hand the reins to him? I doubt it. But it was just an interesting dynamic to me because Troy, it felt like he's like making his point. Oh, they've been bad here and the receivers haven't. He's making his point. He knows where the holes are on the roster. And I thought it was interesting. Bill Belichick on the Manning cast has been rumored as like people are anticipating this. Look, McCarthy's in the last year. They're not going to win anyway, and especially not in the playoffs. Belichick's taking over in Dallas. And Bill's over there. Cavante Turpin, long touchdown. He goes, oh, love Turpin. Best punt returner in the league. He's talking about Brandon Aubrey as the best kicker in the league. It's like he's got special teams already locked up in Dallas. Felt like Belichick's getting ready for his head coaching job, and Aikman was trying to get ready for his GM job on both channels.
I mean, I don't think, number one, I don't think Jerry Jones is ever giving that up. Why would he, right? Like if he was going to give it up, he would have done it by now. I mean, Jerry Jones is the one individual in all of football who is playing real life fantasy football. The man owns the team. The man installs himself as general manager, and he's going to play with the team. So I don't, why would he give that up now just because, oh, it's another bad season. It's time to turn the reins over to Troy. And from Troy's perspective, I mean, he's getting paid $15 million a year, whatever it is, to do the Monday Night Football gig. I don't think he's leaving that to go play GM either.
Probably over 20 now. Imagine Troy. I mean, we know some of the people in the analytics department there. John Park came over from the Colts. Sarah Malpaul came over from the Ravens. We know some of the people there. Do you think Troy walks in day one? He's like, all right, I don't need you people. I don't need you guys.
I think Troy is amenable to analytics. I think Joe Buck is the problem. I think once you separate Troy from Joe Buck, he would immediately understand and have a better appreciation for the data that's out there and the fact that it can lead you to better decisions. I think it's Joe Buck's scoffing that just leads Troy to chuckle along.
I do think Troy at least understand. I think he's made it a point to understand the analytics more through the years, what the numbers are trying to say or what the ESPN analytics is feeding them and all that. He's made it. Look, it's okay to disagree too. It's okay to disagree with the numbers. You've made this point all the time when you're talking about this thing's 51%, this thing's 49%. Like, hey, there's a chance your decimals, you cut your decimal off a little bit early, and maybe it's not that different. It's okay to disagree a little bit. So,
yeah.
Anyway, I thought that was a good thought discussion. Troy Aikman as GM of the Cowboys. I have no idea how he would do.
No, I mean, nothing about Troy Aikman screams, elite GM, but nothing about John Lynch did either when he was in the booth. Like, nothing about John Lynch's career as an announcer even remotely hinted that he was going to be a really good GM. And yet they pluck him out of the booth and he helps turn the 49ers into a juggernaut. So who the hell knows?
And I say this all the time, like you shouldn't just hire a GM because he's the best evaluator, because, good luck finding the guy who's just better at everybody at evaluating. You're hiring someone who manages generally even. it's about taking all that information and synthesizing it into decision making and managing people. Like, you've got plenty of other people, plenty of other evaluations coming through. It's trying to figure out how the pieces fit. So, I mean, John Lynch went to Stanford, so obviously he's capable of doing that. I agree with Doug in the chat. Greg Olson, I still think Greg's the best. I don't think Brady's necessarily been bad since early, but Olson was a legitimate value add to all those like high the number one Fox game every week. A legitimate value add every week at dissecting the situation in real time, because it's kind of two things. It's preparation, but also in real time saying, here's what's going on, here's what people are thinking. Olson has become a master at that.
Yeah, I think Greg Olson is clearly the best color guy in the broadcasting at the moment. I mean, he's so good. He understands all of the information and the data and the advanced stuff and conveys it well, like articulates it and explains why something is happening the way it's happening, whether or not he agrees with it. He's really good at that.
And I know you're not always the biggest Tony Romo fan, but I do think his strength is diagnosing situational football on the fly, quarterback's perspective. On the fly, he'll tell you, hey, we can run 2 plays. We're going to do, like, he's very good at that on the fly. I don't know if the preparation's there. I don't know if he's got some other quirks to him. I think he's very good. It's not the predict to play thing. That was like year one. It's not they're going to run right here. It's here's what the quarterback has to be thinking right now. I think Romo's pretty good at that. Do you disagree? I know you're not the biggest fan, but I think that's at least one strength of his.
I just think that's such a small part of a broadcast that it doesn't offset the things that he's awful at. Like, it's such, like, Tom Brady and Tony Romo are really good at giving you like a quick situational snapshot of what a quarterback's thinking. Well, that's great in the 2-minute warning. What about the 28 minutes before that, where you've just got to sit through, oh, Jim, I don't know. Like, it's not worth it.
I don't know. I love that.
It's not worth it. It's not a good trade-off. Like, I'll give me somebody else for the first 28 minutes and then wheel them out for the 2-minute warning.
Can we get Justin's comment up there? This is what happens when there's a blowout Monday Night Football. Gotta hope it's a sprain.
For anyone that doesn't get that reference, that is, I think, the single finest piece of commentary that's ever been put out there. When Dak Prescott, when his leg was snapped in multiple places, he's like sitting on the floor trying to put his own leg back to where it's supposed to be, like turn it the right way around and jam it back onto the end of his leg. Tony Romo's like, you just got to hope that's a sprain, Jim. So I'm pretty sure it's not a strain, Troy, or Tony, just from the angle we're looking at here, I'm reasonably confident that's not a sprain.
As they go to break, yeah, I think it's pretty sure it's hanging off his leg, his ankle.
Pretty sure. You just gotta hope it's a strain.
Oh, that was good. That was good stuff. No cutlets. We got cutlets versus Rush Thanksgiving. We did talk about it on the main show this morning. We did talk about it hours ago. But, there's some more requests for some Tommy Cutlets analysis.
Cutlets. I tweeted a bit about
Cutlets
it
Lance. Give me Cutlets and Trey Lance on Thanksgiving.
The number of Giants fans that are still like pro Cutlets is pretty impressive. Like, it's like we forgot how the season ended. We're just like, he won a few games. He's fine. He's good. He's an upgrade.
You made the point. It was the basketball phenom for 2 weeks.
Jeremy Lin.
It's Linsanity. You made that comparison last year. That was that was it. Like, Jeremy Lin was supposed to be like the next greatest player in the NBA, and it lasted a couple weeks. Like,
I mean, look, I'm here for the memes, but my expectations aren't high.
All I know is the offense did run better with him than Daniel Jones last year. Jones has played better this year than he did last year. That's the other reality. Like, Jones hasn't been an absolute disaster. There's a cap. It's a good day for Italian Americans everywhere, though. We're all. I gotta talk to my dad. I gotta tell my dad. The news. I'm gonna tell him.
News, Pop. Cutlets is back.
Pop. This There's hope for us. Cutlets is back. You get second chances here. Save Congado. All right, let's do that. We'll do that. Name in the chat the most random one-hit wonder. Could be a player. Could be a song. I'll say How Bizarre.
Song.
How Bizarre. 90s classic. Like 97. OMC.
Tommy Two-Tone. The Jenny, whatever that, 8675309. That's got to be the only thing they ever did.
Drop your favorite one-hit wonder. Could be a song, could be a player. Your favorite one-hit wonders. Jeremy Lin. Ooh. Jerome Harrison. Where were you when Jerome Harrison went off for 265 yards or something like that?
Travis Fulgham's a good one.
Travis Fulgham's a really good one.
For like a month, Travis Fulgham looked like the next great wide receiver and then just disappeared off the face of the earth and never did anything again.
That was what, 2019 with the Eagles? He kind of like saved Carson Wentz's final push that year with Philadelphia. Right. Jonas Gray goes for 200 yards and 4 scores, and he's released like 2 weeks later by the Patriots. Amazing. David Tyree, helmet catch, of course. The Jerome Harrison one, I believe my Jerome Harrison story, I believe I drafted him as an upside running back in 2009. This was the 2009, and I'm pretty sure if somebody wants to check Pro Football Reference, I think it was like fantasy championship week where he just went nuts for the Browns. 265 yards, 3 touchdowns, whatever, sitting on my bench. And I was in Puerto Rico playing winter ball. And I think, checking scores and all that stuff because we had a game. I'm pretty sure that was the year. I'll have to check that later. Chris Matthews with the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. That was fun. Peyton Hillis. Peyton Hillis got a whole Madden cover out of it.
He did.
His 1 year. Gary Barnage. Gary Barnage broke out. What was his breakout year? He's like 33. And out of nowhere, just pops off at tight end.
Spectacular season.
I got to start looking this stuff up.
For not just for the people that are wondering, but also, so this is iteration 4.0 of the mustache, which means I've raised $400. For every $100 raised on my Movember page, we're going to shave a further ridiculous iteration of the stash. The problem I've encountered is that somebody threw in a $400 donation. So I now owe not just the next iteration, but like, I don't know where to go with that.
What do you do?
So I need requests. What am I supposed to do with this that justifies $400 as a donation? This is version 4. This is 4 donations deep or 4 thresholds deep. Where do I go for 400?
Do you want the Jerome Harrison story? Yeah. So let Sam know what you went too quick. You went too quick with the mustache. Color. We're going to start going color
I went
here.
At an appropriate pace. It's just that the donation sped up.
We have good viewers and listeners.
Shave off one side. It's pretty good.
Jerome Harrison, 2009. I was in Puerto Rico, December 20th, 2009. So it all coincided with the fantasy playoffs, weeks 14, 15, and 16. He goes 34 carries for 286 and 3 touchdowns in week 14. Then he goes 39 carries for 148 in a score, and then 33 carries for 127 in a score. Jerome Harrison, just out of nowhere, just winning fantasy championships everywhere. It's great.
Nice.
Look like a guy who owns a members only jacket. I do. UMass Lowell Hall of Fame jacket. I was gonna wait if they could finally make the NCAA tournament, one game away the last 2 years. I was gonna rock the jacket on the podcast with the sleeves that don't even come close to fitting. Thought that would be fun. All right, you're done. You're checked out. Let Sam know. Eyebrows. Eyebrows for 1,000.
I'm not shaving. Shaving? No, I'm not doing eyebrows. This was not part of the deal. There's also, there's like, 11 days left of the month or whatever. So whatever it is, it's got to last like almost 2 weeks.
Last question. Is DJ Lagway QB1 in 2027? Absolutely. Better version of Anthony Richardson. Cannon. Okay. cannon for an arm. Better than what we saw from Richard now. A couple turnover-worthy plays against LSU last week, but man, he does some special stuff. Lagway's the guy. All right, big week. We got Wednesday show. I got Renner joining us. We're going to do a special Friday episode again, talking draft. Hit us up in the Discord with any draft questions you have. And, of course, like, subscribe, do all the stuff. Check the mic after dark. Thanks to everybody for tuning in.